Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. Thank God it's Friday. It is less than 72 hours until the NHL trade deadline, which is always the most fun time of year for us because we get to speculate and react to some of the trades and some of the missed opportunities out there. And we'll discuss all of that with Kevin Allen. Ack will be joining us any moment, but we'll start off with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
All right, let's talk a little baseball. So yesterday was the Mets home opener, and I was over at Kevin Allen's house the other day, and we were talking about how baseball has a few issues, and certainly umpiring is one of them. And, Angel Hernandez aside, because people just love him, they do have an issue with credibility with umpires. I know when I was growing up, there were guys like Harvey Wendelstedt. They had the way they were talked about, with the reverence they were talked about, with the way we respected them, and Kev could probably speak to this after because he covered it, was a lot different than it is now. Over the last 10, 15 years, it's gotten more contentious. They're more argumentative. They did have the one clearing where they cleared out a bunch of the older guys, brought in a bunch of younger umpires, and now we're at the point where they can't even get a call right at the end of the game, which cost the Marlins the game because Michael Conforto was at bat. And whether the ball hit him or not, it doesn't even matter because it was in the strike zone. The umpire was calling a strike. Then he decided not to and says he's hit. And Conforto goes to first base, and it's not reviewable. Like, that's it, game over. But it says in the rule book, right in the rule book, like if the umpire carried the rule book in his back pocket, he would know that if it's in the strike zone or going to be in the strike zone, it's an out. And it should have been an out.
Kevin, here's my issue, and I've discussed this long and hard with Russ about the 10th inning runner at second base and how asinine it is. But strictly about the umpires, I don't know if they were held in higher regard back in the day. I know St. Louis Cardinal fans have a contract out on Don Denkinger to this day from 1985. But what happened yesterday is something that should be reviewable. They have replay, they have the things set up, and they don't review it because this is not a reviewable play. I mean, okay, what the hell do you have replay for if that is not reviewable?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, that is the issue that always comes up with replay is, are we going to do it for everything? And how long are the games going to be? Because, how often do we say, well, we ought to be able to review that because it was so obvious. But, you got to draw the line somewhere. So I'm a little bit sympathetic to that. But that, beyond the replay, as Russ pointed out, like that is a call that umpires should know, that if the ball is if the pitch is a strike, you can't have a hit batsman. And
right.
The fact that even the Mets broadcasters, came out and said, that it was a travesty. In their own way, they said that. They didn't use that word. But they said this is a travesty. I mean, it was an obvious call. I get that, there's a lot of bang plays and you're going to miss them. And, that's just the way it is. The game is fast. It's not as fast as hockey, but it's a fast game. But
it's a little league call. Like, that's a little league call.
Yeah, it is. But the fact that, the indictment to me is just what you brought up. In fact, he was readying himself to call the strike.
Yes.
And I was watching that game, and I was just stunned by that. But I thought that Darling's reaction, was just sort of like, if the opposing team says that, a team was wronged, he was. So, I'm not so sure it's a replay issue as much as it is. You've got to be able to get the obvious calls.
Well, and to make it even worse, after the game, the umpire, after watching the replay, says, "I made the wrong call." Gee, you think? I mean,
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like,
So he was almost. If it would have been on replay, then it would have kind of. If it was reviewable, it would have kind of rescued his call. Now he's got now he's stuck with it. But it's just like, as Kevin said, you're the arbiter of the game. You are the judge, at whatever phrase you want to use. You should know the rules.
Yeah, it's the Armando Galarraga play at first base.
Yeah.
It's it's like everybody knows that he was out. The guy calls him safe. He can't retract it. And it cost the kid a perfect game. And I don't know if he ever. I think he pitched after that, but
a little bit after.
Yeah. There's a couple of things here. I saw someone on Twitter that works in the robotic industry, and he pointed out that even when we get robotics, that there's going to be a percentage of incorrect calls.
Oh, sure.
Just because you won't be able to figure it out. And so we're never going to be perfect. But what we have to decide is what we can tolerate in terms of length of the game. And if we just say it's most important to get it right, then we just say that anything's reviewable. If you don't know, I mean, they're watching. If it's set up and I actually don't know the answer to this, and I probably should, but if it's set up the way it is in the NHL, they're watching every game. So, why can't
they do have a umpire that's supposed to be on site reviewing in the back room, but I don't know in COVID rules if that happens.
Yeah.
But they have Quest Tech, and Quest Tech called it a strike.
Yeah, no, I know they did. Well, we've come a lot farther than we ever thought. I mean, like tennis, and my wife's a much bigger tennis fan than I am. I'm just a very minor tennis fan. But, they used to have, the John McEnroe arguing with the umpire used to be kind of a,
Chalk was on the line.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And now it's all done electronically. And there's none of that. You don't even have to decide whether or not you want to, review it or not. It's just automatically reviewed, and they say whether it was in or out. And now that game's a little bit different, a little more simpler than baseball. But
true.
I think we've kind of pushed it into replay, and I think that's important that we do discuss what we're willing to accept, whether we should replay almost everything. But I really think that situation was just, an umpire that just totally missed an obvious call. And I'm bothered most by the fact that it appeared he was ready to call a strike.
Yeah, no, definitely was.
And
his hand was like this.
Did he not know that? Like, that's what he didn't say. Did he not know the rule? Like what was like? That's just sort of an obvious. It would be, to me, that's the same as if a ball hits a runner and an umpire wouldn't call him out. Like it's that.
I think that umpire needs to go back and take like 1,000 question umpire test before he gets back out on the field now.
1,000 questions. Man.
Yeah.
Principal Cohen has spoken.
How many questions are there possibly?
As much as I admire Russ's aggressiveness on this, because I completely agree with him on that, I don't even think a medical exam has 1,000 questions.
Who gets the proctor is what I want to know.
Well, I nominate Russ. So
Russ suggested he gets to sit in the room with him.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for everybody. So this is like my little thought for the day. Okay.
Yeah.
When you text somebody, if you haven't texted them for a while, or they haven't texted you for a while, and you get a text, and in the text is the line of like, I hope you and your family are well, or something like that kind of concept. You see, it's something you constantly put in as a polite thing or whatever. You haven't said, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, but I need to talk to you now. But I'm sorry, but I want to put in there, I hope you and your family are well. How do you guys interpret that? Because that when I receive it, I mean, I do it all the time too, but I just realized today I received it from somebody. I realized is the person texting me who hasn't texted me in a while implying that I've just ignored him forever, or is there a sarcastic angle to that line?
No, it's just like a salutation thing.
We haven't talked in a while, and I hope things.
You see what I mean? It feels like it could be like, well, I hope you're well.
Yeah,
I haven't talked to you.
I think it's become a staple of COVID life.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you're always concerned that you're going to talk to someone and you're not going to know that they've got someone in the hospital with COVID.
Right.
Yeah. All of that. So I think it's just, what we use to, as a sort of a salutation or, to let people know that we know we're all in COVID and something could be going on, and we don't necessarily know.
Right? Yeah. I guess you're right about that. I mean, that makes sense.
I clearly think it's an expression of seething hatred.
I wonder. I don't know. It could be, Mike. It could just be politeness, or there could be absolutely a passive aggressive element to it. I'm not sure. I just had to get that.
I don't think so.
I always have, even prior to COVID. I mean, if I haven't spoken to someone in a while, to me, it's it's my bad. I haven't touched base with you as often as I should have.
Yeah, you see that I'm more insecure than you, Anthony, because I'm thinking that they're thinking that I should have talked to them before. they're getting in touch with me, so I'm thinking the opposite. I'm like, well, I hope you're okay. I mean, I haven't talked to you forever.
You're reading way too much into it. Actually.
Yeah, I think so. Though I will say, I found out this morning that I live in a zip code. We were on CNN. I think it was CNN I was watching, because in Michigan there's pockets of where the COVID's run amok, and it's my zip code. Where I live. Yeah. It was in the. I saw it in an.
I wish I would have known that a couple of days ago, but okay.
That's comforting.
Yeah, but I've been gone. So I just got back home, and I actually haven't been anywhere. So I guess.
There you go. Fantastic. All right, here we go. Let's get going. The date is, let's call it the 9th.
Yes.
All right. I'll get the dog if I have to. Russ, I tried the idea of the thing with the peanut butter inside of it.
Yes.
Yeah. And as delicious as it was, it didn't help the dogs. But there we go. Ready? We're gonna start now. Hello, Hockey World. What was that?
No, I just told Russ I use that trick too.
I need to use it. So,
but you got to
told me I should try it.
That's the thing. If you freeze it, it lasts longer. You didn't freeze it.
Okay, there you see. These are good tricks. I need to get this. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, April 9th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello. I'm 54 years old, and I'm more durable than Aaron Judge.
I'm Anthony Migioni. I'm 44, and I got a couple pains here and there, but not as bad as Michael.
Let's go in for sportsology.
I'm Kevin Allen. I'm looking forward to the trade deadline, and I feel great. So
yeah, I'm excellent, and I look forward to this that comes after the trade deadline. I'm really excited about that. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And well, we have some things, and yes, the dog hears Mike's voice and immediately starts barking every day. But I didn't have to grab that. It's just insane. It's insane. Didn't start till you talked. Anyway, I want to get into this though because we have like an injury today that plays into this, and it's right in your neck of the woods, Kevin. And that is Bobby Ryan out for the season. This is a bad turn of events, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, because they weren't going to get they were going to get like a third or fourth rounder for him, but they were counting on that, and it's too bad for Bobby as well. But I would say this: the Red Wings have really liked Bobby Ryan, and even though they're going to build they got a young team, but I could have seen, and I still could see, Bobby Ryan re-signing here as just having a veteran presence because there was a thought that. He was good for the younger players. He's a very intelligent guy. He's a guy that everyone seems to like and gravitate to, and he was helping some of the younger players as well.
He's still a great skater, so I mean,
it was a good signing by Yzerman. They were very pleased with how it worked out. It would have worked out better if they could have moved him. But, they've got 9 guys they can trade, so now they got 8. I mean, I've heard great things too. The jokes around, he's reading different books and trying to get everybody into different cultural stuff. Which being that we're from the same hometown and went to the same school district makes me proud that intelligence shines through. But even though I went to the Western, the high school, I went to the Cherry Hill East. He went to Cherry Hill West. But it's good to. I mean, I do feel bad for him because I thought he had a chance to go and do something, in the trade. I felt like he could have gone somewhere and made an impact, and maybe help next year. But I thought he would be a great fit for the Penguins. I that would have been a nice fit for him.
And speaking of that, I heard an interesting rumor just before I got on here, so I haven't vetted it that much. It's really purely a rumor, but this was an interesting thought, and that was, Getzlaf to the Penguins. And the thought being, not Penguins. Getzlaf to Montreal. I apologize. Getzlaf to Montreal. And this was it really kind of came out of nowhere to me. I know obviously Perry there, Getzlaf and Perry. Perry's having a good season there. There is definitely a romance of playing for the Montreal Canadiens that Eric Stahl, who is good friends with Getzlaf, I was told may have had some discussions. I mean, it's whether or not Getzlaf wants to go.
Yeah, I think
anywhere.
He already said he doesn't want to go.
Yeah, he said that. He said that, but
yeah, I mean, they could still ask him. He could change his mind, but he seemed pretty. The story I read, same. He was going to play with the Ducks, or he wasn't going to play. So
I've heard that for 2 years running too.
Yeah,
and that seems to be the common thing. I mean, his girlfriend also from the same town as Bobby Ryan. His wife is also from the same town as Bobby Ryan and I. Actually, was previously.
A player can always change his mind because Travis Zajac did not waive his no move to go to the Islanders last year.
It's a simple move, and the circumstance is a little different this year.
And he might be retiring, so this might be his last kick at the can, so to speak. So
the one thing, and we always forget the reverse. We're always talking about the guys going to get a cup, and we forget that some guys already have a cup,
right?
And so they don't feel the same. To go, I got to go and move to Montreal. I got to find a place to live. What's my wife going to do? I mean, those are things that are complications that we never consider. So, when I read the story, and it was a couple months back when they talked about this possibility, he said, he seemed to indicate he really wasn't interested in doing that. So.
Yeah, I think that's the general feeling.
And the motivation of winning a cup act. That's why I give what you reported a little credibility about Ryan Miller, because
thanks, Mike. I appreciate that's the only reason that you gave what I reported any credibility at all. I do appreciate that.
No, because it because it fits, because it makes sense. The Leafs are cap strapped. Ryan Miller makes $1 million. He's never won a cup. Leafs are a legitimate contender. It makes sense. Yeah. It's going to be 2 months.
Mike,
I think that
Mike, when you send a text to Eklund, do you ask if his family's doing well?
I we talk all the time. We talk all the time. Here's the thing. So Ryan Miller to Toronto, and then I'm adding him to the rumor chart. Also, in another team I was told was Colorado. So those are two teams I could see. I could see Miller making a lot of sense in either place. He really does. And talking to people out in Anaheim, I talked to one of my guys that I really like out there. He used to write for us, Josh Brewster. You guys know him probably.
I know Josh. I've been on his show a few times.
Yeah. He started off in Hockey Buzz. He's another one of the Hockey Buzz guys who started off in Hockey Buzz and then went on and built his empire. But he's out there, and I was talking to him, and he's like, Miller he looks good. He looks good. He's not. He doesn't. I said, can he play? I mean, if just does it make sense? Like, is he? Can you throw him into a Stanley Cup playoff situation right now? Would that work? And he said it actually. He still looked really good. He's kept himself in shape. He's still as nutso as ever. So lining up $25 along the wall before every game. Yeah. But he's still doing all that stuff. But he's still.
I brought him up. I still think teams will call on him whether he wants to go. It's up to him.
Well, he's played more this year than it was expected to because Gibson got hurt. He played 14 games. So I mean, I think that's a testament to the fact that he could step in. And this means nothing, but there is a long history of the Leafs going out and getting an elderly goaltender in a playoff scenario. Well, no, I mean, for Russ, he's 40 for the NHL. He's elderly. I'm sorry.
Okay, hold on. Ryan Miller's 40, but we have to look at it like, is he really like a 40-year-old guy off the street? No, he's still in great shape. Like, come on.
He's still in great shape.
I mean, all Mike's saying is that he's an older goalie. That's all.
He's an older goalie.
He's a sage veteran.
I mean, you're a sports writer. Russ, we try to stay in different fashion. That's all.
He's grizzled. He's grizzled. My favorite term is grizzled. Grizzled.
When he
gets
that beard going, he looks grizzled. I'm not
saying he's Satchel Paige, Russ.
Ryan Miller, when he grows a beard, is very patchy. I mean, if you've ever seen him around,
Mike started this show talking about the fact he's 54 and creaky, so we know what direction he was going in today.
Ryan Miller is younger than everyone on the panel. Ryan Miller is younger than Anthony, who's the youngest person on this panel.
Right. I want Mike to go on a conference call and ask Ryan Miller, because I'm sure he's interviewed him once or twice. Ask Ryan Miller what he feels, if he feels like he's the best elderly goalie in the league. I want to hear that response.
that won't go well. But I will tell you a story that in the playoffs, when Anaheim played the Predators a couple of seasons ago, I phrased the question, and I was trying to talk about, ask Corey Perry about, being an older player and the way you approach everything. And it came out as if I was saying he was over the hill. And I certainly didn't mean that, but other reporters told me that that's how it sounded to them. So I must have phrased it poorly. But it was embarrassing. And, he took affront to the line of questioning, saying, I'm not over the hill. And I said, well, that's not what it's applying, but apparently I did imply that, and I didn't mean to. So
okay,
that can be an issue.
Let me just straighten something out in the chat here, because David's saying something that I believe. I think Linus Ullmark would be the best if the Leafs were going out to get a goaltender because Frederik Andersen is hurt and can't play. Then Linus Ullmark is the goalie I would want if there was no cap restriction. But the problem is they're probably not putting Anderson on LTIR. He's probably coming back before the end of the year. But I think they want insurance, and they can fit Miller, and they can also go out after getting Miller and add either a depth defenseman or another forward, so that allows them the flexibility. If it was just one move and they had to replace Anderson, then Ullmark would be the guy. But I think they want to make other moves besides the goalie insurance. I
was told today when I looked at Ullmark, I talked to someone in Buffalo today, I looked into Ullmark, that they are not going to trade. They're not going to trade him, that they are going to resign him. They're going to find a way to do it. They really like him that much. They think he's that good. They want him. They want to keep him. They do not want to just give him away.
That would be smart of them. But what I'm wondering, I'm not subject to his desires or his wants. The Sabres are a disaster zone, and unless they're overpaying him, which they should, because he's got a .924 save percentage with the worst team in the league. If I'm not getting $4.5 million from the Sabres, I want to test the market. They better know right now whether they can sign him. Otherwise, you get what you can for him.
Well, I think the thinking is, yes, they are a disaster right now, but they're looking looking better right now. They're looking a little bit better, and also the other thing about that is that they can offer him what no other team in the NHL can probably offer him, which is the starting position. He's a starting goalie there, and that to be a starter, if you're given a starting spot, that's something goalies jump on. I mean,
can you really do that though if you don't even know who the coach is going to be?
You can't.
If I'm Ullmark, I'm saying, are you coaching to Kevin Adams if he offers me that? Because
what's his name? Bill Guerin. Bill Guerin gave that, right? Bill Guerin gave that to what's his name, Cam Talbot, and it didn't, not necessarily stick with it. But I remember that was the thing that kind of surprised me about the Talbot signing. Talbot went there because he was going to be the starter.
Then if I'm Ullmark, I throw that at Adams and say, well, I know of some other goalie that got a guarantee and that didn't work out. How do I know? So
no, you're right. I mean, I don't think as much as a guarantee as much as the chances are, that he's got the upper hand on that job right now. Unless they go out and get somebody, really significant. Unless they went out and got saying.
So you still have a few years. It buys you time.
Right.
Lukanen,
you could be getting that signal out of Buffalo basically to raise the price on what they can get for Ullmark. Oh, we want to keep him. Okay, well then we'll give you a second round pick instead of a third. Okay, deal. It's that could be that.
They really do sound like they legitimately like him. I didn't get the person I talked to told me that they really do like. And they should like him. He's been very good. Like you said, it's not like there's not a situation. So I wanted to talk about. I talked to another team that I'm really well connected with. One of the teams I'm actually better connected with than most. And I said, are you guys thinking about making a trade at the deadline? Just checking in with people. And this team is out west. They're doing pretty well. They're not like one of the top teams, but they're definitely a playoff team. And the response was, we really don't have any cap space. Plus, in this year, our team with the COVID has gotten really close. We got great chemistry. We don't want to mess with anything. That was something that I got. And that was, it was legitimate and real. And I think that we're going to see that. I think that chemistry is a big issue with certain teams, right now.
Well, I talked to Don Waddell on the record, and he at Carolina, and they're obviously played very well. And that was a point that he made as well.
Yeah.
He just, we we talked, and we like our team. We like it as it is. We don't want to be disruptive. They're going to look at. There's a couple of minor things that they're going to look at, but he said publicly they won't do anything major because they do not want to disrupt the chemistry of the team.
And they were a very busy team at the deadline last year, Carolina.
Yeah.
So I think they just want to kind of make sure these things all coalesce.
Yeah. Well, and the other issue here too is the importance of the number of draft picks. I always think it's a little bit exaggerated when teams, they trumpet the fact that they own 10 picks or 9 picks because, statistically through the years, we all know that, the percentage of cashing in on those draft picks isn't all that high. Now, you want draft picks because, you got to keep drafting because you got to hope you hit on some of them. Right. But this year, I've been told by multiple people, including those associated with scouting, is there is a thought that this would be the year to have a lot of them because you don't have as many visits with the players, viewings of the players. So everyone believes there's probably going to be more mistakes than we usually get. Like, if you only see a player 3 times as opposed to 9 times, you don't know them quite as well. So it would be better. Like, there might be a guy who falls into the 4th or 5th round that, maybe should be there. That if he had played more games, if you had seen him more times, you would know more about him. So, and I guess there's some logic to that. I don't think anybody knows for sure. We've never done anything like this, but
no, I think there's a little logic to it.
Yeah, just because they haven't played. I mean, especially the Canadian Hockey League guys.
The big ones.
Much. And also, you've seen players. I pointed out. I was making a point. Well, it was good. You got guys to go over and play against men, and the guy, in the pro leagues, but the guy said to me, "Well, yeah, but had he played in the CHL, he would have been dominant, and we might have viewed him differently than when we see him."
No, that's true. That's a fact.
Yeah, he didn't say. He basically said it's just a more challenging read is all he was saying. When you see guys and they're playing against men as opposed when they're playing against people their own age. So, there is a thought that you want to stockpile draft picks this season because of that.
And there's also, because we've heard so many people also talking about, maybe this is the year you move off picks and add players because you're not as sure. It seems to be we're not going to have that happy balance. It could be
there won't be a happy balance. I'm more in favor of moving picks to 2022 or doing what you said, Anthony, and trying to get some players than getting a ton of picks in this draft. That's just me.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I bring up the catchy thing also because of, last night we saw the Islanders for the first time, right? We saw the Islanders with Palmieri and Zajac. And, there was a little bit in my mind, like the Islanders came out gangbusters. They get 2 goals right away. The game looks like it's going to be insane because they get a 5-minute power play right after that. It looks like this is going to be a complete blowout. It turns out to go to overtime, 2-2. And, we didn't see, and, Palmieri and Zajac didn't really have much of an impact on the game. And they're still, they're still fitting him in and they're still trying to figure out where I want to put them and stuff. But I wonder about the chemistry in that situation. I'm really curious.
I think it's first game, Eck. I mean, you're trying to graft on a couple of players. It does shake up your lineup. And I really thought in this circumstance that would have been if Philly was going to catch the Islanders, this is when they were going to catch them. And how things started, I actually agree with Elaine Vigneault. I thought they weren't playing bad, but they had major defensive breakdowns that led to those 2 quick goals. And then after they managed to kill off that 5-minute power play to Morin, with Morin being down, I thought they were actually the better team for the rest of that game until we got to the shootout. So it was an interesting, but I think there's something to be said that at least sometimes we see a trade happen and we don't see if you're expecting an immediate impact with players immediately coming in. I think it's more often where they're trying to get themselves acclimated.
Yeah, I don't even think I saw them late in the third, and I didn't even see those guys late in the third. I think their legs weren't there completely.
I don't know what'll happen because you never know how a trade will work out, because we don't know what lines they'll plug in. But the way I've kind of viewed that trade is to me, it will be hard for anybody before trade deadline to do better on paper than Lamoriello did with that trade.
Yes. Agreed.
He specifically addressed the needs of his team, And he brought in a veteran guy like Zajac, who's been around the block, has seen it all, kind of has a poise to his game. He's not a superstar by any stretch of the imagination, but he's the kind of guy you want. And, he didn't give up the, Kiefer Bellows or anything like that. It's just draft picks. And, and the one thing that I believe in is Lou Lamoriello knows a little bit about contending teams. And the fact he made that deal tells me he believes this team, has a real shot.
Well, when we were talking about this deal yesterday, Kevin, and I looked at what New Jersey got, and Russ thinks Mason Jobst can be an NHLer, but and he may very well be. But in a sense, they get a number one for two players that are going to help the Islanders, and Fitzgerald retained 50% of the salary on both. He did not get paid off for the players that he gave to the Islanders in that deal. He got a first-round pick.
No, but he got the first, and that's what I'm saying. He
didn't get enough.
Well, but you know what? He got a first, and Kevin Adams didn't. And if Jokes does play in the NHL, this doesn't look as bad. And I think we shouldn't be so quick to judge if a guy hasn't played in the NHL, if he's only played 50-something games in the AHL after coming out of college, regardless of his age. Age doesn't matter.
No, okay, and that I'm not saying that you're wrong.
No, I know, but I'm just saying they did get a first where nobody else has so far.
But we've had two examples so far of teams retaining salary in trades over the last year, where they got a fifth-round pick for retaining about $1 million in salary. That was the Eric Stahl deal with the Montreal deal with the Sabres, where the Sabres retained 50%, and that three-way deal with Leonard, where the Leafs retained about $1 million, and they got a fifth-round pick for it. In this instance, they got a conditional fourth, and they retained almost $5 million. That's what I'm saying. How they have the scale with the NFL draft, Russ, where they say, this how many picks to move up this. He didn't get what you're supposed to get for retaining $5 million.
Okay, that may be true, but also we can't judge it yet because we don't know what anybody else is getting because they were first.
And you're also, again, buying, I think, and I mentioned this on yesterday's show as well, that I think he's buying ice time here for some of the younger players. Yeah. Fitzgerald is in his system. He wants to see what he has. And when you have a Palmieri and a Zajac taking up ice time, you have less of a window to see that.
And I also think, Kevin, that Fitzgerald sort of handcuffed himself because he used up both salary retentions on one trade. He's got players like Ryan Murray and other players on his roster that if he might want to trade, that he might need to retain salary to make the deal work, and now he can't because he's used up both retentions.
Yeah. I don't know from the Devils' perspective. It's hard for me even to think about that, just because this trade is about the Islanders, and I know if you're a Devils fan, you don't think like that. And but when I heard this trade, I thought, wow, Lou's going to try to win one more cup. Now, there's no guarantees here. These are not, guys that are going to be superstars, but Palmieri is a consistent scorer. And as I said, Zajac is a guy that's been around and knows what he's doing out there. But there is a good point that you guys had raised before that I wanted to just expand upon. I did some reporting, and people were telling me that there wasn't much of a market for Taylor Hall. And yet I saw reporting yesterday by people who also know what they're doing, who said that suddenly there was. Now, I don't know whether people are floating things out there, or, it only takes two teams a bidding war. So if a second team, I heard yesterday there was only one major contender. And the other thing that I think is very important is I was told, and this goes to the first round pick that Lou gave up, and that, this really would suggest that Fitzgerald did a good job, is that everybody was saying they weren't going to give up their first round picks. And at least two general managers have told me that they don't think any first round picks will go before Monday. Now, we'll see. There's some people out there that I think if they get traded could do that, but that's what they thought. Like Taylor Hall, like if to get a good return on him, and by good return, I mean something that will at least appease the fan base.
Yeah, right.
All they're really, that's all they should be concerned about, because they overpay something. To do that, they're going to have to retain salary.
Yes.
They need to go kind of all the way on that. To me, that's the only way they're going to get, 2 picks, or a prospect, I don't think they're going to hit.
What's kind of interesting about this today is I went back to 1994-95, which is the last time we had a really short season, right? There was the lockout, and you remember who won the Stanley Cup that year was the New Jersey Devils, Lou Lamoriello. And I went back and I saw like who he traded for at that. Like I wanted to see what he did at that trade deadline, because I was thinking, okay, he did some interesting things. He traded away Fatizov to the Red Wings at that deadline. He picked up Sean Chambers and Danton Cole, for Ben Atkinson and Alexander Semak from Tampa. And then, and probably the biggest thing he did, which did turn out to be something that mattered, he picked up Neil Broughton from the Dallas Stars.
Broughton was huge for that role.
Yeah, that was big.
Right. He got him for Corey Millen from the Dallas Stars. And Lou too. Yeah, so Lou did a couple little aggressive things there, and but we used to see guys getting traded away more at the deadline by contenders, which you don't see that happen at all now. Like I heard Shane O'Brien was on the air yesterday on XM. He's really funny, and he was on the air and he was talking about he was with Anaheim the year that Anaheim won the Stanley Cup, and he got traded away at the deadline before the Cup from Anaheim. He got traded away from Anaheim for a first-round draft pick to Tampa. Tampa picked, and it was a good place to go, and he was shocked he was traded for a first-round draft pick. But when do we ever see that? Like, when do we see a guy when do we see a team that's to win a Stanley Cup trade that away?
Yeah, in '94, the Rangers traded Mike Gartner. That's the biggest name that's probably ever been traded away for a team, and he never won a cup after that. And
it was Mike Gartner for Glenn Anderson with the Leafs.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's a massive name, and Mike Gardner's mad about it to this day. Trust me.
I don't
blame him. Yeah.
But this was and I mentioned this yesterday, and Anthony, it's funny because I was listening to a radio show this morning, and they cited the same example that I did, which was Thomas Vanek. It was 2014, and Vanek was talked about being traded constantly, and they said, they're going to get a first round pick in this and first round pick in that. Mm-hmm. And the Islanders waited too long, and they ended up getting a second round pick in Sebastian Coburg from, I think it was the Canadiens.
Yeah, Canadiens. That's where he was.
And it was because Garth Snow waited too long, and at that point everybody else had filled their holes, and he was left, it was musical chairs, and he was left without a chair. So that's the
it's a delicate. There's it's again with all situations, with all transactions, timing and need have to have to come together. Yeah, and you have to strike it at the time that you. And again, it's still a gamble. I mean, you could very well see a larger scale deal happen after you've done yours.
Sure, but
you still have to. If you got a good deal on the table, usually, and your gut's saying to go with it, then you should.
But Elliot Friedman on his latest podcast was talking about Taylor Hall, and he said he thinks that if Toronto is in on Taylor Hall, they swoop in late and they see what they can do late in the game. Basically, if Buffalo is stuck, that they would go that way. And if I'm Kevin Adams, I don't put myself in that position, Kev. I'm like, I need to make that deal today or tomorrow, well ahead of the deadline, get the most that you can and make the deal, because you risk losing out big time as a rookie general manager if you wait till the 11th hour.
Well, yeah, and I think that speaks to the idea that there hasn't been a lot of suitors, because I think he would have done it early if he could.
Me too.
And I just think there hasn't been. And, it's a tricky situation, and I've had these discussions with people around the league, is, it isn't like he just had an off year. Like, he didn't play particularly well last season. He hasn't been the MVP since he was the MVP.
Right. That's exactly right.
He just hasn't played like that. And what he has. We know he can skate. We know he can score. And you keep envisioning, okay, if I plug him in, we'll do that. But I don't know. I just don't see him as I think there's a lot of concern about where his game is at, and maybe it's just a matter of he hasn't been with exceptional teams.
Well, he had an injury the year following the MVP.
Yeah,
and he did play pretty decently for Arizona in the playoffs last year in the bubble. But there are reasons to have reservations about him.
But even but this is what we've been saying for the last couple of days, Kev. Playing decent for Arizona wasn't what Taylor Hall would used to do. He wasn't even a point a game. Like, he wasn't close to that. He was like 9 points in 14 games, something like that. That's acceptable for somebody who's like a second liner, maybe a third liner on your team, but not a top liner that you go and get to give you a boost.
Yeah. I think he's going to be one of the most interesting cases, and there's so much pressure on Kevin Adams. I actually feel sorry for him because, if you go into the media and see what Buffalo fans are saying,
he's in a tough spot.
They signed him for this moment, Kevin. Like, they signed him realizing they were going to move him at the trade deadline. This was really the whole plan. It's
why that deal looks so good. They get to have him for a whole year. He gets to play there, and even if he doesn't want to re-sign there, then they're going to get a first-round pick for him.
Because look what New Jersey got for him. That was the thought. New Jersey moved him to Arizona for quite a lot.
We all commended Buffalo for doing that. Let's not pretend that.
Absolutely,
made a bad decision. That seemed like a really good situation for them, and it just hasn't turned out that way, and for a variety of reasons.
I agree. There are some people in the chat room asking about Gustav, who's been put on waivers today out of New Jersey. And New Jersey puts him on waivers today. And do I think he'll be picked up? I absolutely do.
Well,
I would almost pay 100%.
I think it's 50-50. He's a hard guy to fit in. You have to know that you could fit him in because it's not like he's a plug-and-play NHLer. There's a little bit of massaging you have to do.
Yeah, I don't think it's a slam dunk either. I'd actually say it's 60-40 against. But
yeah.
I'll bet anybody on this one.
From what I understand, actually,
I really do. I really feel. I talked to two people today, and they were both really, really close to saying that if he was available, they were going to do it. So I'm not sure, but I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure.
What's the salary? Because I don't know the answer.
Well, he's being waived unconditionally to terminate the contract. So it's like Bogosian last year. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Salary is $4.5 million, but I think he's collected most of that already. So he's probably wanting to go someplace to get a chance to play and maybe a chance to make the and somebody in the chat saying he's going KHL. The KHL's in the playoffs right now, so they can't.
No, he's not going to.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not. And again, I should be more careful when I answer the way I said it. I'm not. He's going to end up on an NHL team, is what I should say. I was
on a conference call with the Devils preseason, and they were high on Gustav. They really were. He was supposed to fit in, and it just hasn't happened. They probably are trying to save the little bit off his contract because Josh Harris does like to save money, and they know they're not making the playoffs, and it is going to give a spot to someone else. So I do think all of those things are a reason. But like Kevin said, it's not a slam dunk. He's going to get.
I'm not saying he gets. I misspoke when I said he's going to get picked up. I mean he will land on an NHL team. I'm 100% sure.
You'll go through waivers, and then he'll
right. That's what I meant.
Nobody's
I would revise my odds if that was
I revised the odds on that too now.
Nobody's going to claim him at $4.5 million.
No.
So the contract will be terminated. He'll sign a league minimum deal someplace like Bogosian last year, and it's a possibility he locks onto some team that needs a little extra scoring touch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, he could be a good fit for a certain.
What about this scenario? The Predators trade Granlund to some team, and then they sign Gustav to.
I think they might try that, but I could see Washington going for him. They already have a good Russian culture there.
Yes.
You bringing Gustav in there, and now you've got another guy who can skate and score.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah. And they can't. There are 5 or 6 teams, according to people around the league, that really can't do anything unless it's a guy on the minimum salary. So, Washington is among those teams, and they could, if he's going to be a minimum, you can do that. So,
no, absolutely. I think you will see him land somewhere at a minimum, or maybe not even minimum. Because there will be teams that are after him. So I think it'll go a little bit higher than minimum. I think you'll have a couple teams that'll put it up to maybe one.
It depends on where he wants to go. Depends on where he wants to go.
For sure. If you go in a situation that he likes.
Yeah, he's going to get to pick it.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that obviously the other guy who I think could get a first round draft pick, Kev, is David Savard. I think David Savard could end up landing a first rounder for Columbus.
Well, they're asking for first rounder, and the team that really wanted him said they won't pay that, but they said that maybe someone will, but
it won't be them.
It won't be them.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. I mean, there's a couple teams that really like him. But I don't. Yeah, I wonder if they do go to the first round. I don't know.
I think there's probably as much interest in him than anyone out there, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think he's the most sought after guy.
Well, let's make a differentiation here, because I don't think Savard might get a first round pick. Hall might get a first round pick, but the only thing likely to get a first round pick is a player that has term left. We're talking about rentals. Rentals probably won't get first round.
It's got to be one hell of a rental,
right? And I don't think there's anybody on this market that you would categorize as one hell of a rental. I mean, Hall's got flies on him. Savard, there's nothing wrong with him. He's more of a defensive stay-at-home type. He's not a power play quarterback or a guy who, he's not that type of guy, but he's valuable. I mean, so
but the thing about Savard is that he has had some really good playoffs. Like, and we talk to people around the league, like, he has played really well. He played really well against Toronto last year. He played well against Tampa both times that Columbus played Tampa, and that's sticking out. So you're looking at a guy for the playoffs. That's sticking out to people.
The only thing I would say, Eck, is now that we know that Werenski's getting surgery and there's other injuries, we know that there's sellers. If they could get a first, they would take it already. Like, I think if they were offered a first, they would have taken it already.
I don't think they've been offered a first. I know they haven't been offered a first, Trust. I don't think that's what I mean. It's just a matter of whether or not they'll get one or not. And here's a thought that was brought up also. Perhaps, they go the New Jersey route, what the Islanders did, and someone says, okay, we want Savard and Foligno for a first round draft pick, and you end up in that kind of situation. I mean, two players
has to agree to it. He may not want to agree to that.
Foligno would have to agree to it, but
there's only one team that's got the cap space to be able to do that, Eck.
Yeah, and that would be a team,
the Florida Panthers.
That that's not exactly a slam dunk there either. Because do you think that Jarmo is going to help out Zito?
No.
I mean, because I really don't. I mean, because everything right now, when you look at what's going on in Columbus, like Davidson and Zito left, and Columbus went downhill. And there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of pressure on Jarmo about that. Like, so I think that for him to be just helping out Zito, I don't think Savard. I don't think there's a chance in the world that Savard goes to the Panthers.
It's a good point, Eck. And like I said, I just saw Jarmo he didn't see me, but I saw him at the All-American Prospects game. This guy is out there working hard. He doesn't have a lot around him, and that's not his fault.
Right, it's not his fault.
And I also think that you probably get more value if you divide and conquer, if you don't trade both of them in the same deal. I mean, for Savard, the model for a David Savard deal is the Alec Martinez deal between LA and Vegas last year. I think it was 2 second-round picks. That's probably the best that they will do on that deal.
Or a second to third, even.
Or a second or third.
Yeah. I mean, I that's what I see happening with that, something like that, because that's the problem. The teams that really need them don't have any kind of room, and the other teams would like to have them, but they don't want to give up first round pick. So I mean, like we were saying before, all it takes is two. So if there's a bidding war and people get desperate, if somebody gets hurt tonight.
Yes.
If an owner says, I want to push to try to win a cup, and a lot of things could happen. But, I think right now I see them getting two. I think Mike's Martinez analogy is a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. Because I think, given his playoff history, people see him even better than Martinez. So.
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
Another interesting name, okay, that has not, because we've talked about a lot of these people so many times. I'm trying to bring up some players that I'm hearing that are being discussed and kind of on the fringes, Right. We've already mentioned Manson. We've already mentioned a lot of these guys. But the Devils apparently are being very aggressive with PK Subban to the point where, they're willing to pay, like, they're going to take on half of his salary, and you might be able to get like a second-round draft pick. You might be able to get something else too. But from what I've heard, the Devils have like sort of a mandate to get PK Subban moved. Is there any chance that anybody jumps on that?
No, not a chance.
I don't know that there is either. But I just know that they are being aggressive. Like I know that they've talked to.
It's
they've
a
tried
snowball's chance that
Yeah, no. I mean, if you're talking about retention of salary with PK Subban, maybe that happens during the summer, because then it's 1 year at 4.5. But first of all, I don't think Josh Harris is going to retain salary now and next year.
Right. The cap's not going up next year. Why would they do it? There's no way they're doing that. They might do it for this year if it was a 1 year thing, a half a season, not even a half a season, a trade deadline thing, because they did retain some on the other one, which was surprising for them. But yeah, Eck, I don't see them retaining for a whole season when the cap's not going up.
And think of it this way, Eck, also. They've traded Zajac. Now he was up at the end of the year, so was Palmieri. But they've traded two guys who had big salaries. They got to get to the cap floor next year.
Right.
All I'm saying is I was told by the same person that told me that they were going to retain 50% on Palmieri. We talked about that beforehand, remember? And then the same person who said that tells me that they're willing to retain 50% on Span. So I'm not sure that that's the issue. Just the issue is
they're willing to do it. I'm willing to say I don't think anybody wants them. Even
that to me is the question. That to me is the question.
Yeah.
Right? That
would be shocking if somebody took him.
Yeah. I mean, now the only team that I think would make any sense for him is Montreal. And I bring this up because
they have about $100,000 free caps.
I know. No, they would have to do something creatively, but I do believe
not necessarily
that you put him back in there in that situation, a situation he absolutely loves, and you might get something really special out of him.
Well, okay.
I think you could.
Well, today they waived Paul Byron.
Yeah,
that clears $1 million in salary. By him going through, he's gone through waivers twice. Nobody's going to pick him up because he's got term on the contract. And Brendan Gallagher got hurt. He's going to be out the rest of the regular season, and he makes over $4 million. So conceivably, if New Jersey retained 50% of the salary, fit that in. But my problem is they would have to. If you retain for 1 year, you retain the same amount the next year. I don't think there's a chance in hell that New Jersey is retaining 4.5 prorated this year and 4.5 next year on Subban. I don't think there's a chance.
Yeah, I mean, there might not be, but it sounded like that wasn't the issue.
I was told yesterday, too, that Bergevin was being very aggressive, and he wanted to do something to react to the loss of Gallagher to them. And so he was looking around at forwards who had a little snarl, a little bite to them.
I can see that. The other problem with Subban back to the Canadiens, Eck, is there's still guys in that Canadiens locker room that didn't get along with Subban. They're not all
I mean, and I've talked to people who were in that locker room. Like you talked to Danny Briere about that whole situation. He was in that locker room, and he said that he always told me that it was just so. He said there was an issue at times, but it was so overblown that by the media that it really wasn't nearly what people made it out to be. Okay. And so I don't know whether that's what he told me. I'm just saying what he told me.
No, I get it.
I'm not in that room, but I'm not in that locker room. But that's
me neither.
I'll give you.
Foligno, Kevin, if you're talking about a guy like that, that's Foligno, right? Like that's who Montreal would look at. I would think if you want a guy with I think Gallagher's not.
Yeah, and Foligno, I think, will be hot property. I think everyone respects what he brings to the ice, and and if you're Foligno, it's I think if you're Columbus, you call him in and ask him what he wants to do, and you treat him with, he's your captain, and captain's a big deal in the NHL. So it's tough trading your captain.
Yeah. They gave him a maintenance day today. This just came out just before we were on here. Portsline was reporting that they gave Foligno a maintenance day today, which essentially sounds to me like go think about this type.
So go home and think about it. Yeah.
Talk to your wife.
Talk to your wife. Come back. You can use his wife as an excuse. My wife says not a chance.
I'll give you two other.
I hate people use their wives as excuses.
I'll give you two other examples of players who might fit what Montreal is looking for. Mm-hmm. One is Ryan Dzingel. He's sort of a feisty, like that type of player. And the other one who's been waived a couple times this year and probably would fit with that Finnish group in Montreal is Leo Komarov.
Yeah,
I think they would fit that description.
Yeah.
Komarov is still the number one center on the Islanders in this year's game.
No.
Last night when he was playing with the top line.
Yeah, he's not playing center though.
Am I confusing him with somebody else? What am I thinking?
No, Barzil's on the number one line.
Right.
Komarov might have.
I was listening to the radio, and they were saying that he was. Anyway, that's what they said on the radio, and I was listening. So
I think pretty sure he's playing fourth line for them.
He is playing fourth line.
I don't know how he started. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody in the chat room, but I wasn't watching the beginning of the game, but I was listening, and they were pretty surprised by that. They're like, surprised, even though they just got these two good centers.
All right, Arthur said he was on the top line. I don't remember him. I didn't see that. I did watch it with the sound up, but I don't remember seeing him on the top line. Okay.
And that's what they said. And okay, so he was okay. He was on the top line,
but not at center.
No, right, not at center, but on the top line. And
and that's very unusual.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is that unusual. Because I think from what I've heard with that team, that's part of what they've done with him. Quite and not all the time, but it's not like this is the first time it's happened last night. From what I understood, I don't know. It's been on for a while. Not saying so. Yeah, so I think that's the case. So I mean,
Kev, let me ask you a question because we go back and forth on this, and it's easy for us to look like somebody like me, to look at the standings and say, "Oh, this team is a seller." To me, I like it. Okay, you look at the number of games, you look at how many points they are behind, you look at certain other situations, they should be selling, but it doesn't seem that it's that easy of a decision for these general managers to say that in particular situations.
Yeah, I mean, we're really seeing that this year with the Nashville Predators, and I've tried to do some research on that, and they're trying to decide what to do. And I believe they will try to sell off like Granlund and maybe Hala. With the idea is that they can sell that because they're in a position to make the playoffs, and you want to make the playoffs. So you don't want to sort of give, but you can make the case. Well, Duchesne is coming back, and those are our trade acquisitions. You hear that all the time.
Sure,
right.
So I could see. They're getting Ryan Ellis back and Philip Forsberg as well. So, Ryan Ellis is defenseman, obviously, but and they're they could move two forwards. But the idea is that if they don't trade those guys, they're going to lose them, and then they'll get to the summer. I mean, what's the likelihood that they're going to beat Florida, Carolina, or Tampa? It's very minimal.
I did want to mention I follow an Islanders reporter who said that yesterday, like Komarov's on the first line again tonight, so it must be a recent development.
Yeah. Okay. So, but did I just hear that Forsberg went on LTIR today? I heard the things he was on LTIR.
He was on LTIR.
Yeah. He's supposed to come. David Poyle said on a radio show recently that he thought that Ellis, Forsberg, and Duchesne would all be back right after the trade deadline.
Okay, there you go. I mean, they won 9 of 10, right? So people are ripping them like crazy. This is the worst thing that could have ever happened to them. This is terrible.
The problem is they're 15-3 against Columbus, Detroit, and Chicago, and they're 6-15 against the good.
Yeah, right.
So, and everybody knows that. And so it's it just doesn't feel like they're going to make the playoffs, but then they're going to get bounced by somebody. But I say this all the time. Yeah, and if the teams play a 7-game series 10 times, even the underdog will always win that series 1 out of 10 times or 2 out of 10.
Right. I mean, this weird matchups are so strange in that division because that is the mixed up kind of meshy division. Like Carolina's beaten Florida 6 times now. The Florida's 5-1 against Carolina. That's just that's crazy. And Carolina's done really well against Tampa, so go Metro Division.
Let me ask you a question about that because I may just be nuts, but because you guys know how much I like Tampa Bay Lightning and what they do, and statistically they got the top offense, they got a great defense, they have the number 1 goalie. But I find Carolina's offense more entertaining than Tampa's. Am I nuts?
You are nuts. Yes,
I agree with you. Carolina is
watching Carolina. I did.
By me?
The other day, I almost fell asleep watching Carolina's offense.
I like their offense.
I do too. They're fast. They're quick.
Yeah, they're very fast. Yeah, I like their forecheck, Sebastian Aho. I love watching him.
They play that fast game, like which was kind of introduced by the Vegas team, as expansion team, that fast all the time game. Well, it's fun. I mean, they're fun to watch. They're really dangerous. They are. They're not going to go down. They're not going to go down easy to anybody. I mean,
we should make note of the fact Stamkos got hurt in the last game. Now, it's not supposed to be anything long term. They say he's questionable for like the next game, but again, we don't know. We think Kucherov is coming back for the beginning of the playoffs, but Stamkos has had a problem staying healthy over the years, and it may be a little bit of a reason for concern that maybe Brisebois makes some sort of move if he can with limited cap space he has before the deadline.
Yeah, or he puts LTI and brings in Savard.
Yeah, he has said publicly that he can't do anything.
I did want to mention the Hobey Baker tonight. It's going to be at 6:00 on NHL Network.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Cole Caulfield will win, but here's some other really good prospects that people should know about. Shane Pinto for Ottawa, a hell of a player. David Farrance, obviously, for Nashville. We've talked about him. And Dylan Holloway, Caulfield's teammate. So, Edmonton. So Caulfield's probably going to run away with it. And then for goaltender, it'll be interesting for Mike Richter Award. I don't know every goaltender for, the NCAAs. I have a fair amount of games on my DVR that I've been watching, guys. But it seems like Dryden McKay might be the guy, but not everybody thinks it should be, but we'll see. He's the Minnesota Mankato kid. He just got eliminated. But I'll tell you, I don't know if I saw Matt Murray on the list for UMass, but if he is, I would vote for him because Matt Murray, I saw him 2 years ago when McCarr was on that team, and they lost 3-0 to Duluth. Now, again, that's a few years ago. Now they're in the finals with him in goal. So I think he's going to be a hot commodity too the minute the season ends, especially if they were to win it. Although I still like St. Cloud. I'm pulling for St. Cloud at this point, just so you know.
I like it. We were talking the other day. I was talking to someone about a Hobey Baker Award winners, and someone was saying, "Oh, none of the Hobey Baker Award winners ever do anything in the NHL." And that was true for a little while, but lately you got guys like Cale Makar. He's a Hobey Baker Award winner. Jack Eichel, Johnny Giroux. Yeah. I mean, there are guys in there, but you do have your Mac Gilroys and players like that too that have not had great NHL careers.
Jimmy Vesey.
VC. Matt Carl was a Hobey Baker winner. But I think overall, this is Cole Caulfield feels like a real deal.
The Richter Award's probably even more of a slam dunk that they make it to the NHL. I mean, now we have Jeremy Swayman, who Bruins fans are just getting crazy about at this point. They're nuts. They would rather see Swayman.
Russ.
They would rather see Swayman than Tuukka Rask at this point. Like, I don't get it.
It's pretty funny, yeah. Who's the best guy ever to win that Hobey Baker, do you think?
Hobey Baker, no. Let's see. It could be Eichel, actually.
Could be Eichel? Would it be Paul Kariya?
Could be Kariya. I mean, I got to give Eichel more time, but it could be Eichel.
Yeah. I'd say it's Kariya right now. We'll see what Eichel does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's good.
Did Hobey Baker?
All right, folks.
No, I said that.
All right. All right, folks. We're going to stop there because we want to not have anything to talk about on Monday, which it might happen anyway. But we're going to try not to let that happen. Thank you, Kevin, for jumping on. We will be back again on Monday. We're going to start around 1 o'clock is the plan right now. We'll go from 1 to just after the deadline. So we'll have a cast of many, and we'll all be here. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you then. Enjoy the weekend.